our 1 a.m. Square and Compass live stream. This is going to be a shorter live stream because I need to get myself to sleep still because I got a busy day tomorrow. Having said that, I hope everybody enjoyed yesterday's 1 p.m. stream. Talked about professional wrestling and Freemasonry. Lessons the latter can take from the former. Talked about some famous professional wrestlers who are Freemasons, and I just really enjoyed it. I'm going to do a few poll questions about that tomorrow. Or a few quizzes, I should say, about that tomorrow. See who was paying attention on my community page. And I also had a blast sharing over the Monday and the weekend social media pics, accounts. It was just really fun time checking out Windsor Masonic Temple and getting to take part in Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. With all of that said, let's give it a couple minutes. Let's wait to see who joins. I will be back on tomorrow at 1 p.m. I've got a couple different ideas for what I want to talk about during that stream. But we'll wait and see. And then tomorrow on my personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/Cameron Adamson, I'm going to be having another live stream hangout with your friend and mine, Smokey the Clown. So I hope you guys tune in for that. That's 5 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for the like. It is truly appreciated. Anybody wants to join can do a quick super chat as well. Theophilus, how is it going for you? I hope you're doing well. And I'll give you a wave back. Mostly, the reason I wanted to come on here was just to remind people that tomorrow, or today technically, October 29th at 5 p.m. Eastern, I'll be doing the live stream on my personal channel with my friend Smokey to thank everybody who took part in the professional wrestling and Freemasonry live stream I did at 1 p.m. yesterday technically. And to remind everybody again, keep on checking out my social media accounts. Become a patron, become a channel member, super chats. All that stuff helps out majorly when it comes to the way that we are able to promote the ways that Freemasonry is relevant to our communities. I also did a great interview with a brother from Arcana Veritas, which we will talk about. I should be posting that over the weekend. Oof, says Mr. Keeps on Ticking. Oof as in wrestling? Oof as in you're tired? I do not know what oof is in my face. I do not know what oof means, but it's still good to have you. Or is it the back hurting? I'm sorry that the back is hurting, Theophilus. If it makes you feel any better, I'm in some pain because I had some wrestling over the weekend and I did some stuff. Nothing major, but I'm definitely getting older and I'm feeling it now. Not the young man I once was. But I do, once again, already doing well. And this weekend, the thing I'm most excited for is what we have coming up on Sunday, which will be, like I said, my interview with Brother Roman Prince of the Arcana Veritas Awards. We're going to be talking about what those awards are and the importance of Masonic scholarship and recognizing and promoting and supporting Masonic scholarship, which I don't think we perhaps do in Freemasonry enough. Getting old is not. He is very right. Although, Theophilus, what I don't always say, what I'm trying to say now, is we should be grateful for getting old because it is a privilege denied to many. It's a privilege denied to too many. So we should be grateful for it. But thank you again, everybody who is here. Don't forget, tomorrow, 5 p.m., me and Smokey hanging out on my personal channel. 1 p.m., another live stream. I have a few different ideas and things I want to talk about. Let's give this stream maybe just another 5 minutes. We'll do a super short stream. I just want to see if anybody jumps on to say hello. Obviously, we talk about Freemasonry, but really these 1 a.m. streams. They're just hangout streams. So hang out, chat, see how everybody's doing. Getting old isn't the worst thing in the world, though. Like I said, Theophilus. Freemasonry does have some lessons about that. The idea of, kind of not celebrating getting old per se, but I think a certain level of gratefulness is a certain level of gratefulness is a very important thing. My cat just ran away behind me, or ran behind me. I don't know what it is about cats at night when they get the zoomies. I said you got this little demon in your house or in your apartment that just scurries. There's there she was. If I can get Bandit on screen, I will. If I can reach her, come here. Nope, I can't reach her. Wolf Shanza, I am well. I hope you are well also. Thank you for being here. Top of the morning to you also. This is going to be a very short stream, but I do like to keep a consistent schedule, and 1 a.m. streams can be a lot of fun. But this will be relatively quick. Like I said, I'm just on hanging out for a couple of minutes, mostly writing to people about what we have coming up. Also on Friday for the Halloween stream, I may um, watch some scary movies while I'm on stream. Should be fun. Going to work? Well, enjoy work. I hope you have a good day at work. And thank you for jumping on for a couple of minutes to say hello. I really appreciate it. And by the way, Wolf, anybody watching this, if there are ever any topics that you want to see me cover on Square and Compass Promotions, please take a moment to let me know. Like you can do it through a chat, you can do it through a super chat or regular chat. You can leave a comment on a video. You can shoot me off an email. I will do my best to make sure I find them and track them down for you. Um, and potentially cover those topics. And that goes for everybody who watches this. If you're a Mason, maybe there are topics you wish your Masonic Lodge would cover that it doesn't. Um, and let me know and I can maybe cover it here. If you're not a Mason, maybe there's always questions you want to ask or better understand, and I will do my best to answer those questions as well. So, like I said, you can contact me through social media, you can leave a comment on a YouTube video, you can do a chat or a super chat, whatever it is that you want to do, any questions you may have about Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear it. I don't know, Mr. Keeps. What's an ashlar being perfected called? I mean, there's the rough ashlar and the perfect ashlar. Though there's no such thing as a perfect ashlar, right? Um, in the sense that I think one of the lessons there is it's a constant state of improvement we should be going for. I mean, I guess an ashlar may, in theory, get to a point of perfection, but we as humans and we as Masons are never going to be perfect ourselves. We are always, there's always more that we can do, always more and better ways that we can perfect ourselves. Unless there's something I'm missing, but the actual ashlar that's in the process of being perfected or being worked on, unless I'm missing something, I'm trying to think if in the ritual there was a mention of that term, but I can't think of it. I mean, you could use the term refining, like a refined. Well, oh, are you talking about the broached? That was my cat, by the way. And that was my cat jumping off of my table. The broached thurnal is what you're talking about there. Actually, I think broached, THURNE. I'll let me look it up. It's not. It's oh my gosh. If I recall correctly, hello Daniela. The broached thurnal is it's not a cube per se. It could be a cube, it could be a circle, it could be a triangle. Um, oh, let me look it up because I know what you're talking about, I think. Well, this is from the California Freemason. Okay, yeah. A broach thurnal. So what a broach thurnal is, sorry, it's a cube. I'm just getting it from the California Mason now. It's the cube with the triangle on top, or it's a cube with a pyramid on top. We actually, um, we don't actually talk a lot about the broach thurnal um, in emulation ritual. It's more in Preston. I don't sleep. It's more in Preston Webb. Um, but yeah, it's a with this triangle on top. Yeah, so I think that's what you're referring to. Um, but I don't think that's referred to. I'll have to look this up. Actually, it might be kind of fun. Might be kind of fun to actually do Mr. Keeps like a full. I should do some research about that because it's something I know very little about. To my knowledge, it's not actually referenced anywhere in emulation ritual. The ritual comes from UGLE. It's referenced in Preston Webb. I believe it's a symbol in the first degree. Um, Honestly, I need to look more into it because I know very little about it. I mean, this is very relative, um, or not relative, what's the word? Take this with a grain of salt because it's something I should look into more. But to my understanding, um, it's meant to, it's not that the stone is like it's not that the stone is never meant to be perfected. It's that the stone is another tool for entered apprentices to work upon, right? So if you're an entered apprentice and you get to a point where you're pretty good, instead of giving you a rough asher to make perfect because stones are expensive, they're the tricks of the trade. It's a stone that you can try and adjust your jewels on. You learn how to make angles, right? Because the top of it's a pyramid, a triangle. So you can learn how to carve not just 90-degree angles, but you learn how to carve 45-degree angles. You learn how to work on a pyramid. Having said all of that, the broach thurnal is not a symbol I know a ton about. So it's worth exploring more. If I recall correctly, it is in the first degree of Preston Webb ritual. It's why, for example, aprons in a so in Canada's different, but if I recall correctly, it's the reason why entered apprentices in the United States wear their aprons in a certain manner to resemble a broached thurnal, to resemble a square with a triangle on top, or a square with a pyramid on top, if I recall correctly. But I don't think it's actually meant to become a perfect ashlar. It's just another tool for entered apprentices to work upon. Having said that, like I said, it's worth exploring that symbol because honestly, it's something I know very little about. I think it's just another stone for entered apprentices to work upon. Learn how to create triangles, learn how to create angles outside of 90 degrees. But huge grain of salt. I should look into it. I also think Mr. Keeps that I don't believe the broach thurnal is ever referenced in emulation ritual. I could be wrong, but I'm trying to think certainly I never heard it referenced in my degrees. The first time I heard it referenced related to, again, how in the States, they wear an entered apprentice apron. Well, there you go, Theophilus. We Good, Wolf Shanza. I think it's awesome. I know many Muslims who are Freemasons and who love Freemasonry. So I guess what I have to say is, Mr. Keeps, thank you for asking that question because it is definitely something worth studying and something I should study. So perhaps next week I'll do an episode um, all about the broached thurnal and what it is, where you find it. Like I said, California Freemasons has an article about it. So that might be a good place to start checking it out. Um, but there are, I mean, I think I'm decent at symbols, especially, obviously, I know better the ones used in our ritual in the first 3 degrees. But there's some in the States I know a little bit about the trowel, the beehive. Those you don't really see in our ritual, but they're very important parts of American or President Webb ritual. But Wolf, I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. I don't know, Theophilus. I don't know what the numbers are. Um, in my area, so Southern Ontario, Scottish Rite is more prevalent than York Rite. But Canada wide, I don't know. If I had to take a guess, and that's just what it would be because I haven't looked at the numbers. Certainly, it seems that Scottish Rite is more prevalent. At least when I'm traveling, I meet more Scottish Rite brethren than York Rite brethren in Canada. But I haven't looked at the numbers, so you can kind of take that with the grain. I'll say in my area, um, Scottish Rite is more prevalent than York Rite. But I think there's a place for both. I think both provide a lot of value to Freemasonry, just so long as whether it's Scottish Rite, York Rite, or even Shrine, you are not focusing on those at the expense of your Masonic lodges at the craft level. Because obviously, York Rite is amazing, Scottish Rite is amazing, but if there's no craft lodges, then there's no York Rite and there's no Scottish Rite. And there's no shrine. I don't think I have Death Star. I mean, it's possible, because especially when I was traveling overseas, it's possible when I was meeting with some Masons, they may have been Swiss or French, right? But um, I didn't ask. When any meetings I've attended, I've never attended a Swiss or French Rite Masonic meeting. Like I said, it's always been either like in the States, York or Preston Webb is what you call it, right? Or emulation. Never even attended any Scottish Rite craft degrees. I've attended Scottish Rite. Obviously, I'm part of Scottish Rite, but there is even a Scottish Rite for the first 3 degrees that, if I recall correctly, exists in Louisiana. I think it exists in a couple other places. Um, oh, Theophilus. Hold on 1 second. Let me double check something. It's I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Um, because I think you're referring to the Rite of Memphis or the Rite of Memphis Mizrain in the Oriental Rites. Uh, which is not recognized in many jurisdictions, right? It's not recognized, for example, um, in North America, to my knowledge, either in Canada or United States. It is recognized in some European countries. Um, I think it's been considered irregular since at least 1860. And longer than that, OTO hasn't been recognized for a long time, to my knowledge. Um, Hold on, I just want to double check something. Yeah, if you're referring to the Oriental rites, I believe you're either referring to the rite of Memphis or the um, rite of Memphis Mizraim, which again is considered irregular in a lot of jurisdictions. It is recognized by the Grand Orient of France. So, Theophilus, if you're referring to that, rites of Memphis or rites of Memphis Mizraim, it depends on, again, who you ask, where you go. It's funny because it's secretly acceptable. No, I think, hold on just one sec. Let me double check something. Yeah, it's not, I mean, it's secretly acceptable how? Like, to be, I just wanted to double check it to make sure I'm right. Like, if you're a member of the OTO, you're not considered a Freemason. You still have to join Freemasonry and start, it's not a, it doesn't make Freemasons. It's not recognized. You couldn't use your membership within OTO to attend a Masonic meeting or to attend a Masonic function. Um, right? So it's not a Masonic, right? So it's not recognized. Now, I don't think Masons have anything against OTO. I've never heard any Mason have anything against OTO or anything like that, but it's not a recognized Masonic body. A lot of people think it is, but that is not the case. Fat Matt, how's it going? Thank you for being here. We're going to be ending, actually, we're going longer than I thought. My plan was to do this for a couple minutes and then jump off the stream because I've got a busy day tomorrow. However, they may. I don't think I've ever met a Mason who's a member of OTO, Death Stark. Um, at least, I mean, I don't ask them all, but I don't think I've ever even heard it brought up. It was originally started as kind of almost like a Masonic research society, I think, because initially, if I recall correctly, there was a rule that to join OTO, you had to first be a Freemason. I mean, to my knowledge, that rule doesn't exist anymore. Hasn't existed for, I think, centuries, or at least a century, I think. Um, I should double check when OTO was formed. But the point is, like, OTOs never really came up in any of my Masonic discussions with any of my Masonic brothers. There may be some Masons who join OTO after becoming Masons. There may also be some OTO members who become Masons after the fact. But they're separate organizations, right? They're not recognized as a Masonic body or Masonic order. And I think it's been that way for at least a century, if not a little bit longer. Um, but no, I mean, this has been a really good um, um, uh, discussion. I've really enjoyed it. I got something else to talk about, the broached thurnal. Sorry, Wolf Shanza asked me above somewhere. Where was it? He said, is it reasonable to ask a Muslim candidate why they would want to join a Judeo-Christian organization? Well, Wolf Shanza, this is something where you and I are going to have to disagree because I don't believe Freemasonry is a Judeo-Christian organization. Freemasonry is not a religion. It is not a Judeo-Christian organization any more than it is a Muslim organization or anything else. It's a civic group, a civil organization. It has a responsibility to welcome men of all different faiths and beliefs. And so I think we need to be really careful. Obviously, traditionally, historically, takes a great deal from Judeo-Christian history, values, theology. However, it also borrows in many different respects from the Muslim community. It borrows from Stoic philosophy. It borrows from Chinese mythology, Egyptian mysticism. So I would not call it a Judeo-Christian organization by any means. The live above me was very sad. Well, I hope that this live is not sad. Organic Death Machine, thank you for being here. That is not the case. You do not need to have family members who are Freemasons. That is not the case at all. We have many Masons who join who have no family members who are Freemasons, or at least are unaware if they have any family members who are Freemasons. I suppose they could have some in their history. Not to my knowledge, Death Stark. I'm not aware of any time in history where joining a Masonic Lodge required a bloodline connection. I think that might be a myth. At least, I could be wrong, but I am not aware of I'm not aware of any time in history where a blood relationship was required. I mean, certainly when you look at how massive the Masonic boom was in the 1920s and the 1950s, and most of that was being kind of fueled by veterans returning from World War I and World War II. You know, it would be impossible for them all to have family connections. You know, if they all had family connections, I mean, Freemasonry would not have grown the way it did, right? So you need to keep that in mind. I remember the name. I remember that. What's the middle chamber? The middle chamber, it's an allegory or metaphor taken from King Solomon's temple, right? So it comes from there. In Freemasonry, you hear about it in the second degree, and it's a metaphor for self-improvement and growth and discovery. But the term, the metaphor, the idea of it comes from King Solomon's temple. And if you want to learn more about it and how to achieve it and how to get there, well, then may I suggest you join Freemasonry. And that's how you learn about how to get there and more about what it means. But, I mean, literally, it's taken from King Solomon's temple. But like everything in Freemasonry, we can apply it to our, metaphorically speaking, to ourselves, right? Consider the human to be a kind of temple that you build yourself through your own kind of work and efforts and dedication. The middle chamber is a part in the process of building. Disillusioned American. Why are you disillusioned? I hope you are not disillusioned. There's a lot of great things in America. It's an awesome country. I always say I'm from Canada. Canada is the greatest country in the world because one of the reasons is because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. Would you be opposed to? No, I mean, I have no issue with that, Organic. I think plenty of sand in the sandbox. I think everybody should do kind of what they believe and what makes them happy. And if creating a new Masonic, or not even a new brotherhood, a new fraternity makes people happy, then they are more than welcome to go for it. The issue is if in the process of doing it, they turn around and say, we're actually the true Masonic order, or if you join us, you're a Mason. That's a problem. If you start your own fraternity, you can call it whatever you want, but if you're not recognized by the Masonic jurisdiction, then you're not recognized. And that means you can't travel to other Masonic lodges, you can't visit other Masonic lodges, you're not making Masons. But if you want to start, I don't know, some group, call it the Knights of the Detroit River, and create purchase a clubhouse and charge fees and start some type of brotherhood fraternal group, I mean, more power to you. But if you start that and then you say by joining this you're a Freemason, that's wrong. And that can be a dangerous thing. because what you have is you have people joining, they think they're Masons, then they go to travel somewhere and they find out they're not allowed to attend the meeting because the group that they joined is not a legitimate Masonic lodge. So long as they're being honest about what they are and what they're doing and they're not pretending to be Masonic, then more power to them. I think the world is made better when we have a strong civic society, and whether that civic society exists within groups such as Freemasons, Knights of Columbus, Fraternal Order of Police, um, Elks, Moose, any of the old school kind of groups, or whether it exists in new brotherhoods and new groups that are formed. I say more power to them. I mean, I can't say how organic, how Freemasons, as a group view competition because you have to speak to them. Like, I can just speak for myself. I have no issue with, I don't even like to use the term competition. I have absolutely no concern with different types of civic groups or fraternities or whatever it is creating themselves. I mean, we are, honestly, if you want to ask what the true competition of Freemasonry is, it's not other groups. It's the television set. It's a society in which productivity and wages are decoupled, which means men are working longer hours for the same or less pay, which gives them less time to attend a Masonic lodge. Our competition is time itself, and how in 2025 we are expected to do so much more with the same number of hours in a day as our fathers and grandfathers did in the 1920s, which affects your ability to attend Masonic lodges. It's Our competition is a breakdown in community, which a competition is a distrust in institutions, which unfortunately that distrust in institutions ends up hitting Freemasonry as hard as anything else. Our competition is phones, which everybody has, which means people can be entertained 24/7 and don't need to set time aside to create entertainment by attending a lodge or create interest. And which gives people a false sense of community by allowing them to feel as though they are connected to people without meeting them face to face. So when it comes to this idea of, our competition is not other civic groups, it's not other groups. Our competition is the television, is people not feeling they have the time for Freemasonry. It's the clock on the wall, it's the iPhone, it's a fragmentation of culture. It's a lot of other things. So yeah, I guess that's what I'd say. I'm very concerned about the competition from television sets. I'm not concerned about any quote unquote competition from groups like, let's say, the Moose or the Elks. Would you say Freemasonry as a whole? No, I don't believe we have enemies. I wouldn't use that term. There are people who dislike us. There are people who like us, right? When people who dislike us, it's always, conspiracy theories or people kind of reading kind of nonsense, anti-Masonic groups who think we're running the world or sacrificing people or whatever it is, right? But that's just a bunch of internet nonsense. I suppose, we as Freemasons, there may be people who don't like us. That's just because they haven't got to know us. But I wouldn't use the term enemies to describe that because we in Freemasonry, right, it's not our purpose to have enemies. We're not in competition with anybody. Absolutely disillusioned. Just as disillusioned said, a lot of Masons belong to a lot of different groups. Oh, I love the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania. The Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia is incredible. It's an amazing building. It's an amazing jurisdiction. Hey, Trevor. No, no, there wouldn't be a concept like that. Because Freemasonry is not a religion, so there's no concept of like an enemy that's against Freemasonry or like duality. I mean, I suppose maybe conceptually, if I was forced to think of what the conceptual enemy of Freemasonry would be, in my opinion, it would be disorder. Because Freemasons, right, we derive from stonemasons. Stonemasons are builders. They built with order. They use geometry, which is an example of an ordered universe, right? So maybe the enemy, like conceptually of Freemasonry, might be disorder or destruction. We as Freemasons are our goal is to build. Um, at least we build things metaphorically. Stonemasons build things literally. So you can maybe argue destruction is like an enemy of Freemasonry. Well, no, you don't want to think about Freemasonry in terms of ideologies, organic. You don't want to think about Freemasonry in terms of an ideology, right? That's a mistake because it's not a religion, it's not an ideology. I mean, it's an activity, it's a thing you do, and the thing you do is meet with other men and try to support one another and the community at large, right? Like, there are philosophies that are kind of connected to. So, an example I might use is, let's say you met a football player. Well, you wouldn't say he has an ideology of football because football isn't an ideology, it's a sport. But you would say, by virtue of his playing football, he has certain philosophies that he likely lives by. He believes probably, or philosophies he believes in. Like, he probably believes in teamwork. He probably believes in physical fitness. He probably believes in practice. He probably believes in sport. Um, right? And so, in the same with Freemasonry, there's no ideology, but if you're a Freemason and you're active in it and you're engaged, you probably believe in community. You probably believe in civic engagement. You probably believe in a type of teamwork. You're probably administratively oriented, at least somewhat, like you're good at organizing meetings and events. But that's not an ideology. That's just, kind of the nature of what's inherent to Freemasonry. I mean, you could pick any group. If you're part of a knitting club, again, there's no ideology for the knitting club, but if you're a member of it, you probably believe in things like patience, because knitting can take a while to complete the work. You probably believe in things like detail. You're probably detail oriented to get because if you're knitting things, especially if you want to create something really fancy, you need to have very intricate details. You probably believe in shared experiences because you could knit at home by yourself, right? You're joining it because you have a belief that doing things with others is more enjoyable. But those aren't ideologies. Um, Brotherly love, relief, and truth, organic. If you had to say what is the consistent kind of, if you said what do football players believe, you'd probably say at the fundamental level, teamwork and sport. If you ask what do Freemasons believe at a fundamental level, brotherly love, relief, and truth is kind of, and then what that means though, each Freemason has to decide for themselves. Um, because a lot of Freemasons will have different definitions of um, what it means to, what brotherly love, relief, and truth means. And because Freemasonry is not a religion, there's not a single person who can interpret it for you. You have to interpret it yourself. Just like football players will have different ideas of what teamwork is and what the best approach is to take. I do not know what the cave in Oregon is, so I cannot say. But Masons do cave degrees. I've never actually been to one. I planned to visit a cave degree a few years ago. I never got around to it because COVID hit. I think those would be really fun to take part in. Um, and well, so free, yes, but we're not enemies with the Catholic Church. I mean, I know many Catholic Freemasons. The Catholic Church may have official doctrines against Freemasonry, quote unquote, but that doesn't, that's not something that we within Freemasonry They may not like us, but we as Freemasons, I know many Catholic Freemasons, and I've never heard a Freemason say anything negative about the Catholic Church, nor of any church. Well, I mean, how do you know that it's a Masonic cave? And Freemasons do not worship Freemasons do not worship Satan. It's not a satanic cult. So I'm very sorry to disappoint you. I don't know anything about it though, so I can't say. Other than I do kind of want to visit a cave degree one day. Well, organic, I think if unity is what you believe in, you may find yourself attracted to Freemasonry, or not exclusively Freemasonry, but Freemasonry or many other groups and organizations or clubs in general, right? Because at the end of the day, any club or group you want to join, or even team sports, a percentage of that kind of is about unity. An ununited or a team with disunity is not going to be a very good team. If I care about anything, well, I care about a lot of things, but it's also 1 in the morning. It's 1:41 in the morning, actually, and I plan to go to sleep at some point. Again, you can start whatever you want. The issue is, though, if you start your own quote-unquote Freemasonry, don't forget, you can call it whatever you want, but that doesn't mean you're actually starting Freemasonry. Like, you know, you're not going to be able to visit other Masonic lodges. Anybody who joins your group is not going to be able to visit other Masonic lodges. So, Mahler Cave is a lava tube cave in Harney County, Oregon, located roughly 17 miles east of Crane Hot Springs and about 52 miles east of Burns, Oregon. The cave's exclusivity, this is from Wikipedia, the cave's exclusivity and underground setting have encouraged a modest folklore ecosystem in blogs and social media, where modern rumors portray Malheur Cave as a Masonic door to hell and a site of satanic rites, or a node in a clandestine tunnel network. A national roundup by Business Insider summarized those claims and pointed readers to the lodge's public page. As a document explanation, an annual fraternal gathering inside a privately owned lava tube. While nothing, so basically, there is no evidence of any of the claims of the cave being a door to hell or a site of satanic rites. At least according to Wikipedia, it's just a bunch of nonsense being sprouted on social media, which there's a lot of nonsense sprouted on social media. And oftentimes people who tend to believe that stuff usually are experiencing challenging lives and looking for things, looking for conspiracies or kind of boogeymen to perhaps play some of those feelings upon. Hello, Samantha. Well, again, like organic, you can start whatever you want. I'm not going to view, I mean, plenty of sand in the sandbox. What I'd say, though, is, I mean, why start your own group when there are already groups that exist? I'm not even talking about Freemasons. You could join the Moose, the Elks. You know, you could join Knights of Columbus if you're Catholic. Like, yeah. I guess I'm not sure what the point would be in trying to start your own group when there's already so many groups out there. Even join a team sport where unity is kind of a prerequisite or an understanding in the whole. Looks like I am, Trevor. Looks like I am. People do start clubs. I mean, unfortunately, it's not happening like it used to, which I guess is not a good thing. But I wish we had more groups and clubs starting up again. I think as our civic society has been on the decline, the number of groups that are being started or that exist are dropping as well. Unless you want to count, and this is an interesting kind of discussion, which we have another day, how do you consider online groups or clubs? Because if you consider online groups, the number of those clubs and groups that are starting are absolutely exploding um, in number for obvious reasons, um, right? Because we have the technology. Whereas, do you count those as real groups? I mean, Facebook groups, Twitter has groups. You have online communities springing up all the time. Um, what do we think of those? Well, so to be a Freemason, you have to believe in a supreme being, right? The nature of that supreme being is up to you. I guess you could argue that it'd be possible for someone who, you don't have to believe me, Trevor, that's fine. Um, um, like, I guess in theory, it'd be possible for somebody who's a Satanist to join a lodge, I guess. I mean, because I don't know enough of what they believe, but um, I will say the one time I had any involvement with this, I was actually at the Masonic building a few years ago. Somebody called the building, said they wanted to join Freemasonry because they were a Satanist and wanted to kind of take part. So first I had to explain to them that Freemasonry is not satanic, is not connected to the Church of Satan, anything like that. So I had to explain that to them. Then they still said they were interested in joining. So I spoke with them, I talked to them, and after speaking with them, they told me that actually they didn't want to join because Freemasonry exposed opposite values to Satanism. Because Freemasonry, the higher power has to be something outside of yourself. And he said that his higher power in Satanism was himself and his own person. So he ended up not even applying. I don't know. Is it possible there might be some Freemasons who exist who, are self-described Satanists? I guess. I never met one. And again, the one time a Satanist contacted me about joining Freemasonry, he decided not to when he learned what Freemasonry was all about. So, so that's, I guess, all I can say. Never met a satanic Freemason. And I understand it might be difficult for them to join because, again, if I understand it correctly, what the Satanists worship as their supreme being is themselves, which would probably not be suitable in a Masonic context. Sure, Yuri, sure. Well, I don't know anything about the Masonic Pyramid in Pennsylvania either. I know plenty about, like the Philadelphia Masonic Temple in Pennsylvania and the Masonic Tribute or the Masonic Memorial at Gettysburg in Pennsylvania, the brother to brother, but I don't know anything about the Masonic Pyramid. All right, we're going to look this up, but then I'm going to be ending this stream, although there's still time for people to take a moment and do a super chat of, 99 cents even. Oh, looks like the Rosicrucian Pyramids of Bucks County. The headquarters of the Fraternus Rosicrucia. So Rosicrucianism is not Freemasonry. Having said that, Rosicrucianism and Freemasonry is connected. Yes, you still have to donate. Right, so it looks like it's actually at the Rosicrucian Club. It looks like they have some Masonic writings on, or not writings per se, but Masonic commemorations on them because Freemason and Rosicrucianism were connected throughout history, but they're different organizations. They're different groups. I know nothing about the guidestones. I assume you're talking, Joseph, about the Georgia guidestones. I keep hearing about them and these chats, but I don't know. Um, I don't know. Like, there was some congressperson who wanted to get rid of them. I think they were. I don't even think they were blown up. I think they were just disassembled. But to my knowledge, the Georgia guidestones have nothing to do with Freemasonry. Um, it's. I mean, other than the fact, I guess they're made of stones, and Freemasons obviously derived from stonemasonry or stone Masonic guilds. So that would be a good rabbit hole and a half. Well, I mean, I'll look into it, but by the same token, Trevor, how do we know that you're not brainwashed in the other direction, right? To believe the most kind of, shall we say, outlandish conspiracy theories, right? Automatic belief and automatic disbelief are basically the same things. Um, I mean, maybe what I could do is actually attend a meeting there. Like I said, I want to go to a cave degree. It's been one of my goals. I never get around to it because I actually was supposed to go do a Mississippi cave degree, but then COVID hit and we basically couldn't leave the country. For a time, we couldn't leave our house, so I never got to take part in it. But maybe I'll visit, maybe I'll see if I can attend one of their meetings and actually check out the caves firsthand. I have my dues cards up to date, so I could. Well, I think in the olden days, I mean, I don't know if they had regular meetings in caves, but certainly for special events, they would use caves because it's kind of fun, right? It's something different. It's kind of like here in Windsor, we did a event at Boblo Island. It was an outdoor Masonic meeting in a big field, basically, surrounded by woods. Like it's fun. It's something different. It's something interesting. And again, the symbolism is obvious, right? We in Freemasonry evolved from stone Masonic guilds. Um, um, and so obviously anytime we're surrounded by stone, in some ways metaphorically, it's reminding us of our roots in the guilds. Or in a quarry. Yeah. Well, I mean, I actually am getting vaccinated tomorrow, but I send my dues cards, right? My cards that prove I'm a member of a Masonic Lodge, which would allow me to attend one of these special events in a cave, because you need to have to attend a Masonic meeting, you need to have your membership card if you're visiting and proof that you're a Freemason in good standing. Um, but I do have my vaccine cards as well. I'm getting my COVID update and my flu shot. Well, Trevor, I've already got 5 COVID shots, and I get my flu shot every year. And then I've got all my other vaccines you're supposed to get, right? Like when I was a kid, I got a bunch, and then obviously, because I travel a lot overseas, I got um, my hepatitis A and B vaccines. So I'm not glowing green yet. I haven't grown back my legs, but maybe the vaccines will grow me a new pair of legs. Um, who knows? I think I'll be fine, Trevor. I'm not too worried about it. Hiram was from Lebanon, wasn't he? Hiram Abif was from Lebanon. Or sorry, Hiram, king of Tyre, was from Lebanon, for sure. Hiram Abif, we don't actually know where he was from. If you're referring to the Hiram mentioned in the Bible, who, again, Hiram Abif is a Masonic legend, a Masonic kind of metaphor, is how I always think about it. There was a Hiram mentioned in the Bible who was the builder, but that's kind of as far as it goes. But Hiram, king of Tyre, was from Lebanon. He actually supposedly provided King Solomon not just with the men and the stone materials, but also with trees from Cyprus for the lumber, which is kind of a really cool thing as well. What degree? I am an 18th degree Scottish Rite. I got my first 3 degrees, obviously, Master Mason. That's what matters. Master Mason is the most important degree. Every degree is equal to 3rd degree, whether you're a 32nd, a 33rd, an 18th degree like me, or you're one of the Royal Arch chapters. But yeah, I'm 18th degree Scottish Rite. Well, I don't think I need the vaccines, honestly. I mean, need is a very strong word. I mean, I don't need the vaccines. I also don't need to exercise every day, but doing so helps, protect my health, as well as it means I'm less likely to require the resources of the community, right? Like my suspicion is even, during COVID when it was first happening, I was never particularly afraid of getting COVID. I always assumed I'm young, I'm healthy, I could fight it off, and I think I could have. To my knowledge, I never got COVID. I was one of the lucky ones. Whenever I was tested, I always came back negative, but I was never afraid of getting it. But why take the risk? It's like, if I can do something that will potentially stop me from getting something, and in doing so, even if there's a 2% chance it will put me in the hospital, then I'm taking resources from the community and others who could use those resources more than me, right? Same reason I believe in eating healthy and exercising regularly. I don't want to end up in the hospital for a condition that could be prevented and take resources from those who maybe have a condition that couldn't have been prevented. Um, that would be incredible. I do. Well, I have my cat, Trevor. I set spiders free. I set spiders free. I can't speak for all Freemasons, but I set spiders free. But yeah, and also obviously, if I can potentially reduce the risk of other people getting sick, that's good. But again, like why take the risk of potentially getting sick, and in doing so, you're limiting how much you can contribute to society while at the same time potentially taking resources, right? I think we have a responsibility, not to ourselves per se, but to the world around us, to try and exert our talents and abilities to make the world a better place. If we're battling disease, we're not taking care of ourselves, it's harder for us to exercise those talents and abilities. Um, well, I think he was being sarcastic, disillusioned. I don't think he actually meant it, but I set spiders free. Um, it does have a lot of Masonic symbolism, Joseph. I've written about that on my past streams. Um, right, and I personally, and this is I know plenty of Freemasons who have different opinions than me. I don't speak for Freemasonry, I speak for myself. I think within Freemasonry, though, there is one of the philosophies that I take from it is a belief that we have responsibility to ourselves. We have a responsibility to others to care for ourselves, because in doing so, we can make sure that we are healthy enough and able enough to then take care of the community at large. And that includes getting vaccinated. One of the things I believe, and a lot of Masons disagree with me on this, believe me, this is my opinion completely, is that I think getting vaccinated is a Masonic thing to do. But don't worry, Trevor. Many Masons think I'm crazy. Thank you. I hope I win it as well. I'd be honored to. November 26th is the ceremony, and I'm going to be in Scotland for it, so I'll get to report from there as to how I do. So disillusioned, I would kind of push back a little bit. When you say a lot of our founding fathers were Freemasons, I wouldn't use that term a lot. Based to my knowledge, 9 of the founding fathers were Freemasons. Now that's a fair number, but I think one of the dangers when we're talking about Freemasonry is we need to be careful that we're kind of specific, because what can happen is people who are both pro and anti-Mason will use kind of words like, or adjectives like a lot, many, several, to push narratives. So I'm talking to anti-Masonic people who are conspiracy theorists. They think Freemasonry is evil, and they also thought America was evil. And they said, well, I know it's true because what they said is, I know it's true because every founding father was a Freemason. And I said, well, that's not true. And then they said, okay, but a lot were. I said, do you actually know how many were Freemasons? They said, I don't know. I told them nine out of like 56 were Freemasons. So that's, well less than half. Um, and then they said, not, if you give the specific number, it means that conspiracy theorists can't just take off with it. Um, what I read, well, I mean, Freemasons, I'm a Freemason. I'm actually a monarchist. A lot of kings in England, for example, have been Freemasons. Queen Elizabeth's husband was a Freemason. He was a Freemason for, over 50 years. And the current Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of England is the H.R.H. Kent, who's a Freemason and a member of the royal family. Um, the So yeah, we're not. There was in different areas of the world. Certainly, there was a anti-monarchist streak amongst some Masons. Masonry was considered for many years a very much a left-wing group because they were very pro-democracy. So they were often, and Masonic lodges are democratic institutions. They're democratically operated. Um, and as a consequence of that, Jose Rizal, Garibaldi were considered to be very pro-democracy and very anti-monarchist, but that was in certain areas. Again, I would say in England, um, Freemasonry, King George was a Freemason, was kind of intertwined with the monarchy, but at the same time, King George was a Freemason, and George Washington, who was obviously very anti-monarchist, was a Freemason. So Freemasonry isn't anti-monarchist or pro-monarchist. It's certainly pro-democratic governance, but that doesn't mean you can't have a type of monarchy as well. It's each Mason decides for himself. Um, do Masons have a certain book that explains the ways of the Masons? Um, Not because there's no like ways of the Freemasons, right? Again, it's not an ideology. The closest thing you would have to that, what I would suggest, Joseph, if you want a book that'll teach you more about Freemasonry and what it is, Freemasonry for Dummies by Chris Hodap is an excellent book, an excellent resource. Um, so I'd start with Freemasonry for Dummies. Beyond that, there's a ritual books or ciphers, but they're different jurisdiction to jurisdiction, right? There is no single way of Freemasons. Freemasonry is jurisdictional. There are differences in Freemasonry in Texas to Ontario to Manitoba to England to Israel to France, right? The idea that Freemasonry, there's a single way or ways of Freemasons is not the case. Every Freemason kind of makes his own way. Every jurisdiction makes its own way. No, it's not my fault. You can blame Chris Hodap, Trevor, because he named it Freemasonry for Dummies. Um, and many people, many Freemasons have read the book and loved it. I've read the book and loved it, but I'm a dummy in fairness. So, well, to be a Freemason, one of the things, Yuri, you have to be joining of your own free will, right? You can't be joining because someone's making you join or telling you to join. So if you're in indentured servitude and you're joining because somebody told you to, like your master, then that wouldn't be okay. You have to join because you want to, not because somebody else is kind of forcing you to or making you. And if you're not free, how could we know kind of that's the danger, right? You have to be joining of your own free will and accord. Having said that, if an indentured servant, we knew that he was joining not because anybody was forcing him to join, but because he, of his own free will, then it'd be fine. A disillusioned American, if you have any favorite Masonic books, please share. I think I mentioned above, by the way, that 9 of the founding fathers were Freemasons. Actually, it's between 9 and 11. There's not an exact number. Um, of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, 11 of them were Freemasons. We know that for sure. In terms of the number of founding fathers, between 9 and 11. I tend to go with 9. But I think, again, calling it, a book on the ways of the Freemasons, again, the implication there is Freemasonry is a single global entity with a set of ways that apply to everybody who's a Mason, and that's not the case. Um, I mean, I guess I'd have to learn more, Theophilus, about how you would define the term pagan. I would just call it a civic organization or a social club. Um, the idea of the higher power, supreme being, is so liberally defined that I don't think like any type of kind of religious or spiritual undertones is even really necessary. Um, I wonder if the Masons had any ties to ancient Egypt. We do not, despite what some people think. So the ties to ancient Egypt, certainly we as Freemasons, we derive from stonemasons. Stonemasonry has existed for really millions of years, if you count our hominid ancestors creating stone tools. And certainly in ancient Egypt, stonemasonry was incredibly important. Stone was actually plentiful. There's a lot of it. And they obviously used it in the building of pyramids, most famously. The most famous Egyptian stone structure, the most famous stone structure in the world, um, perhaps. And so certainly there was this idea of us being connected to them through stonemasonry. And then, as Freemasonry was developing and evolving, amateur and professional Egyptology was booming in England and in Europe, right? That was the age where people from Britain would go to Egypt and rob tombs and bring back a whole bunch of Egyptian artifacts. People loved talking about Egypt. That's how the Royal Museum got a bunch of its stuff. And so Egyptian mythology and Egyptian mysticism made its way into our Masonic rituals and our Masonic ritual books as a consequence of that. But that's in movies and TV, you call it retconning, right? There's no direct connection. Rather, when Freemasons were developing their rituals, due to the influence of Egyptology in the pop culture of the time, they incorporated Egyptian mysticism and symbolism, like the pyramid, into Masonic um, rituals and Masonic symbolism. But that was true for a lot of things, just in general, even in America. I mean, one of the most famous, towns and cities in America is called Memphis. It's an Egyptian name, right? The obelisk in Washington, based on Egyptian designs, right? So, pyramids, whatever it is. Ancient Egypt, the pyramid on the $1 bill. I mean, Egyptian symbolism and Egyptian mythology, like I said, it was very popular at the time. You often see in Masonic buildings, they'll have like one or two rooms, if they're big enough, that are designed in like an Egyptian manner, or with Egyptian hieroglyphics, which they don't even translate to anything. People just like the way they looked. The designers just liked the way they looked. Sure, you can call us that, Yuri. You can call us that. Um, but at least that's my answer. I don't know if people agree or disagree. By the way, Disillusioned American, I hope you'll take a moment to hit the like button and the subscribe button. Joseph, same thing. Please hit like and subscribe. Theophilus says it. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, and do a super chat of even 99 cents. This has been a really fun stream. It went longer than I thought it would, which has been a blast. Thank you guys so much for being here. But I'm now going to end this stream, and I will be back on tomorrow. Thank you guys so much. The Well, the monolith, when I hear that, I think of uh, the Space Odyssey from 2001. I think you're talking about the obelisk, Yuri. And actually, I don't know why they chose that design, um, or what it meant to the ancient Egyptians. I always imagined it was like a giant sundial, right? Or does it have to be a world religion, disillusioned American? Like, I'm not religious, but I believe in a supreme being, but it's not found in any religion. It's a personal spiritual belief. I also know indigenous Freemasons, and I've even known a couple Wiccan Freemasons, Wiccan, right? The biggest thing that's remembering it's not a religion, and nor is it a singular system, but rather it is different depending on where you are. Which is why it's so hard when people say, what are the ways of Freemasons, right? There's not a singular way. It's more complicated than that. It's like asking, what are the ways of football players? Even within the sport, there's different rules depending if you flag football, NFL, CFL, whatever it might be. Thank you, disillusioned. I thought there must be, well, people are willing to spend a lot of money on things that are symbolic. You could argue that symbolism is practical, right? To a certain extent, if something serves a symbolic purpose, human beings respond to symbols. Symbols are important to us. Freemasons, I think, understands that. But as a consequence of that, sometimes people are willing to spend a lot of money on things that are symbolic and not quote unquote practical. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you all soon. Have an excellent night.